Bachelor in Paradise. Brian speaks out about breaking bro code. August 14th, 2025. Hello everyone, welcome to my channel, Bachelor Nation news fans. Season 10 of Bachelor in Paradise took a dramatic turn when Brian Otts broke bro code and told Bailey Brown about Jeremy Simon's betrayal. Jeremy secretly called Susie Evans to ask her to come back, but never clued Bailey in on the phone call. Now the cat is out of the bag, and everyone on the beach got mad at Brian. Wait, what? Keep reading to find out what he had to say about breaking bro code. Bachelor in Paradise contestants turn on Brian Otts. Brian Otts wasn't the only one who knew that Jeremy was still holding a candle for Susie. Some of the other contestants, including Kat Izzo and Alexi Godin, knew, but chose to keep quiet. But the situation was weighing on Brian, especially after Jeremy said he would propose to Susie if she returned to the beach. Brian tried to get time alone with Bailey during the secret rendezvous challenge, but she declined. He remained undeterred and tracked her down later to spill the tea. She was obviously shocked by what he told her. Jeremy was able to smooth things over with Bailey by downplaying the phone call with Susie and denying saying he would propose to her. To viewers, the bad guy in this situation was clearly Jeremy. But to those on the beach, Brian Otts was wrong to get involved. Even worse, he broke the bro code by telling Bailey about Jeremy's actions. Wells Adams weighs in on douche behavior. Wells Adams serves as the resident Bachelor in Paradise bartender, but he also serves as a commentator on what goes down on the beach. He shared his reaction to everyone blaming Brian instead of Jeremy. Wells thought the reaction was bonkers. He said that it was veering away from bro code into douche code. Pretty pumped I got douchebag code on network TV. Hashtag Bachelor in Paradise, pic.twitter, 54IE64IESVOG. Brian speaks out about breaking bro code. Brian Otts was just as surprised as viewers at the backlash he faced from his co-stars. There were a lot of comments that Brian told Bailey to help himself win the $500,000 cash prize. There was speculation that he expected Jeremy and Bailey to leave, putting Brian one step closer to the grand prize. The Bachelorette alum was a guest on Nick Viall's Viall Files podcast. Brian defended himself from accusations that he only told Bailey for selfish reasons. He said that he didn't have ulterior motives at all. In his opinion, Jeremy wouldn't have ever told Bailey about the phone call. The trailer for next week's Bachelor in Paradise hints that the spotlight is off Brian and directly on to Sean McLaughlin. He seems to have separate confrontations with Kat Izzo and Spencer Conley. Do you think Brian Otts was wrong for breaking bro code and telling Bailey? Sound off in the comments.
That wasn't so perfect. The Mexican sun was merciless that afternoon, beating down on the cabanas and palm-lined bar of Bachelor in Paradise. The turquoise water lapped lazily at the shore, and the cameras captured the scene as if it were a dream. Beautiful people, beautiful cocktails, and the promise of romance. But for Brian Carter, that day was the start of a nightmare. Brian, a 31-year-old from Denver, had entered Paradise with the best of intentions. He'd been the quiet charmer back on The Bachelorette, the guy with the calm smile and loyal nature. His friends from the franchise called him the solid one, the kind of guy you'd trust with your secrets or your girl. Which is why what happened next would turn all of Bachelor Nation upside down. "I came in just looking for love," Brian would later tell me in an exclusive sit-down. "I didn't plan on breaking the code." The bro code. And if you're a fan of the show, you know what that means. Never, under any circumstances, make a move on your friend's girl. The beginning of trouble. The trouble started on day 5. Brian's best friend from The Bachelorette, Alex Martinez, had been in Paradise from the very start. Alex was the life of the party, loud, confident, and the first to get a tequila shot going at 10 a.m. He had quickly headed off with Samantha, a stunning brunette with a mysterious past, a wicked laugh, and the kind of green eyes that seemed to lock onto you like a target. Brian had noticed her too, of course, but from a respectful distance. She was Alex's girl, and bro code rule number 1 was clear: you don't interfere. But the universe, and reality TV, has a way of testing rules. On the evening of day 5, after a storm had rolled in and the sky over Paradise was smeared with purple and gold, Brian found himself sitting alone by the beach fire. The other cast members had gone to change for the night's cocktail party, but Samantha had stayed behind. She wandered over, barefoot, her hair still damp from the pool. "You look like you're thinking too much," she teased, dropping onto the seat beside him. Brian laughed awkwardly. "Maybe I am, just trying to take it all in." Their conversation started innocently. Favorite music, bad dating stories, worst travel disasters. But then Samantha's voice softened. "Alex, he's fun, but I don't know if he sees me," she said, staring into the fire. "Not really." Brian froze. This was dangerous territory. And yet something about the vulnerability in her voice cracked his guard. Lines begin to blur. Over the next few days, Samantha and Brian kept finding themselves in the same places. Morning coffee on the patio, swimming in the pool when everyone else was napping, late-night chats at the bar when the cameras had gone dark for the evening. But in Paradise, the cameras never truly went dark. It wasn't until the Truth or Dare game on day 8 that things officially crossed the line. The dare? Kiss the person you secretly have a crush on. Brian had planned to pick a safe option, maybe flirt with Emily, the bubbly blonde who was everyone's buddy. But when his turn came, he caught Samantha's eye. Her look was electric, daring him, and before he could stop himself, he leaned in. Gasps, whispers, Alex's face went pale. The next morning, Brian knew everything had changed. The fallout. When Alex confronted him, it wasn't in front of the cameras. It was behind the scenes, in the cramped, air-conditioned producer tent. "What the hell, man?" Alex's voice shook with rage. "You knew I liked her. You knew. Bro code. Ever heard of it?" Brian tried to explain. "It wasn't planned, Alex. I didn't mean for it to." "You didn't mean?" Alex's laugh was better. "You chose." For the rest of the day, Paradise was split into factions. Half the cast whispered that Brian was the villain of the season. The other half thought Samantha had been leading both men on. Either way, the easy, sunny mood of the beach was gone. Breaking his silence. By the time filming wrapped, the damage was done. Alex and Brian were no longer speaking. Samantha left the show before the final rose ceremony, saying she needed time to figure things out. And Brian was left with a reputation he hadn't asked for: the bro code breaker. For weeks after the finale aired, Brian stayed quiet. He ignored the headlines. Bachelor in Paradise's Brian Carter, the snake in the sand? Fans slam Brian for betraying Alex on national TV. But silence, in Bachelor Nation, only fuels the fire. Finally, 6 months later, Brian agreed to an exclusive interview. Sitting across from me at a small cafe in Denver, he looked less like the tanned heartthrob from Paradise and more like a man who'd been carrying a weight. "I didn't go there to betray anyone," he said, his voice steady. "But I'm not going to lie. I felt something with Samantha I didn't expect. And in that moment, I made a choice that I can't take back." The truth about Samantha. According to Brian, there was more to the story than the camera showed. Alex and Samantha weren't exclusive, he explained. "She told me, more than once, that she was still figuring things out. The producers, they want drama, they want a triangle, and they got one." He leaned back, running a hand through his hair. "I know how it looked, but it wasn't about breaking a code. It was about following my gut, even if it meant losing a friend." Still, he admitted the guilt got at him. "I should have talked to Alex first," Brian said. "That's on me. I handled it wrong." The fans react. When Brian's interview aired, Bachelor Nation exploded. Social media was divided. Hashtag Team Brian trended for 2 days, with fans defending his right to pursue love. Others weren't so forgiving. Bro code is bro code for a reason. He crossed it. If Alex wasn't committed, then Brian did nothing wrong. Samantha made her choice. Samantha herself posted a cryptic Instagram story. Sometimes the truth isn't made for TV. A chance at redemption. Months later, ABC announced the next season of Bachelor in Paradise. To everyone's shock, Brian's name was on the cast list. And so was Alex's. "Are you insane?" I asked him when I got the news. He laughed. "Maybe, but I believe in second chances." Filming began, and the world waited to see whether the bro code could be repaired
Back to the
or
beach.
broken again.
When Brian stepped off the boat onto the familiar stretch of sand, he felt the same heat, smelled the same salt air, but everything else was different. The first time, he'd been the good guy with no enemies. Now, he was walking into enemy territory. The other cast members were polite but cautious. Whispers floated between hammocks. Someone actually muttered "snake" under their breath. The only one who walked up with a broad grin was none other than bartender Wells Adams. "Well, well, if it isn't Mr. Bro Code," Wells joked, handing Brian a drink. "You here to fix things or light this beach on fire again?" Brian smirked. "Depends on who you ask." But then, from across the beach, he saw him, Alex. Leaner, tanner, and still carrying that alpha energy, Alex was lounging with a couple of the new women, sunglasses hiding his eyes. He didn't stand when Brian approached. They exchanged a handshake that was more tension than warmth. "Welcome back," Alex said flatly. "Hope you're ready for round 2. Producer games. Brian had been on enough reality TV now to know the producer's favorite game, force proximity. That night, during the welcome dinner, the seating chart just happened to put Brian, Alex, and Samantha in the same 3 seats. Yes, Samantha was back. She had arrived earlier that day in a shimmering gold dress that made half the beach gasp. If the producers wanted fireworks, they were about to get them. "Long time no see," Samantha said, her smile just a little too sharp. Brian's pulse kicked up. He hadn't spoken to her since Paradise last year, except for one awkward text exchange that ended in silence. Now here she was, inches away, looking every bit the confident queen and also like trouble wrapped in coconut-scented perfume. The producers rolled the cameras, drinks were poured, and slowly the questions started. "So, Brian," one of the new guys said, grinning like a kid tossing a lit match into a pile of dry leaves, "any regrets about last time?" Brian glanced at Alex. Alex kept his eyes on his drink. "Yeah," Brian said finally, "I regret how I handled things. Not the connection I felt, but the way I went about it." Samantha arched a brow. "Interesting choice of words." Night confessions. By midnight, most of the group had scattered to hammocks or the pool. Brian was sitting alone at the edge of the beach when Samantha walked over, holding 2 glasses of wine. "We should talk," she said, handing him one. It was like déjà vu, the same warm air, the same sound of waves, the same magnetic pull between them. "I never wanted to hurt Alex," she said softly, "but you and we had something real, and maybe I wasn't ready to admit it." Brian's heart thudded. "So why didn't you fight for it?" Her gaze dropped to the sand. "Because reality TV isn't real life, and I wasn't sure you'd choose me outside of all this." Before he could respond, Alex appeared, hands shoved in his pockets. "Guess I'm interrupting," Alex said, but his tone wasn't just anger anymore, it was weariness. The confrontation. The 3 of them ended up sitting around the fire pit, cameras catching every flicker of emotion. Alex spoke first. "Look, I'm not going to keep doing this dance. Yeah, Brian, you broke bro code. You should have come to me. But Sam, you weren't exactly innocent either." Samantha's jaw tightened. "I didn't owe you exclusivity." "Maybe not," Alex said, "but you knew how I felt." Brian took a deep breath. "I messed up, man. I should have told you before anything happened. I didn't, and I lost your trust. I can't undo that, but I'm not here to fight anymore." Silence stretched between them, broken only by the crackle of the fire. Alex finally nodded. "You want a truce? Fine, but I'm watching you." It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was a crack in the wall. Temptations and tests. Paradise days are long, hot, and full of tests, and the producers made sure Brian's test came quickly. A new arrival, Elise, was bold, flirty, and had no problem making her interest in Brian known. By day 3, Elise asked him on a date.
Normally, this would be a no-brainer, but the date card also included Samantha. Cue chaos. The date turned out to be a 3-person paddleboard excursion in a quiet lagoon. Elise flirted openly. Samantha stayed cool, but her glances at Brian spoke volumes. "You're popular," Samantha teased later when Elise was out of earshot. Brian smiled. "You jealous?" "Maybe," she said, and for the first time since arriving, she reached for his hand. Social media storm. Back in the real world, fans were already reacting to leaked paparazzi shots from set. The comments section was a battlefield. Samantha needs to leave both of them alone. Brian's redemption arc incoming. I can feel it. Alex is too good for this mess. The hashtag BroCode 2.0 began trending. The rose ceremony twist. By the time the first rose ceremony rolled around, the entire beach was guessing who Brian would choose. Elise was the easy route, no drama, no history. But Samantha, choosing her would reignite every headline and probably destroy any fragile truce with Alex. When the music swelled and Brian stepped forward with the rose, the tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. "Samantha," he said, holding her gaze. Gasps, whispers. Alex's jaw clenched, but he didn't say a word. Samantha stepped forward, accepting the rose with a knowing smile. Reunion night. The truth comes out. Months later, during the reunion taping, the trio sat together on the couch under the bright studio lights. Host Jesse Palmer wasted no time. "Brian, looking back, do you think you broke bro code?" Brian didn't hesitate. "Yes, I did. I should have gone to Alex before making a move. That's the truth. But I also believe you can't ignore a real connection." Alex nodded slowly. "I can respect the honesty. We're not best friends anymore, but we're cool." Samantha leaned in. "For the record, I never played either of you. I was figuring myself out." Jesse smiled. "Well, it looks like Paradise didn't just test your relationships, it tested your friendships." The aftermath. After the season aired, Brian and Samantha tried dating in the real world. It lasted 4 months. "We were good together," Brian said in one last interview. "But sometimes the beach magic doesn't survive outside the cameras." As for Alex, he moved on with someone completely outside the franchise. And though he and Brian weren't inseparable anymore, they could grab a drink without tension. "The bro code?" Brian laughed when I asked him about it months later. "Let's just say I've learned my lesson."